Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back. Pump your fist, get jacked up. That's right. The Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens 28-24. Don't call it a comeback. I felt like LL Cool J during that game. They looked like right when you thought that it was done, right when you thought that there was no way the Steelers had any chance, any prayer of winning this game. What happens? They come back like the Undertaker back in the old WWF. They sit up and say, we're not done yet. Steelers win. They're 7-0. Bryan Anthony Davis, welcome to the show. How you feeling right now?
Elated. Oh, man, I'm going crazy because we all live in Maryland. You know the deal. Yes. And I abhor this team so much that I scared my I didn't really scare them. I made my entire family and all our guests laugh because I jumped up. I did a couple fist pumps with a certain finger up when something happened, and I yelled out an expletive in joy that no one expected to hear from me because that doesn't happen very often in this house. So it was just one of those things. They bring out the worst in me, and it's somebody already put it on the live chat. It's a 3 a.m. victory or a 2 a.m. victory. It doesn't matter. I was trying to explain to everybody in the house that no, they're not playing crappy. This is the Ravens. Remember 2008 when they had so much trouble beating them, but they beat them 3 times that year. They play them tough. It is a black and blue game, even though the other team was wearing black and purple. But it was amazing. 7-0 for the second time in history. The last time they won the Super Bowl.
That is right. Dave Schofield, welcome to the show. How are you feeling?
The Steelers play today. I was too busy watching the Bengals beat up on the Titans. No, man, I'm surprised words are coming out of my mouth right now because I was screaming so loud. My family does not watch the games with me a lot of the time because, frankly, I scare them. I do with the amount of screaming that I do, and but yet they weren't there. They were at the other end of the house, but I had to make sure everyone heard me because. Dude, they are in the driver's seat. They are in the driver's seat right now. I mean, they beat Baltimore in Baltimore.
All right, so we have a lot to get through. Okay, we have a lot to disseminate. People are already throwing money at us with super chats, which we really appreciate. I'll get to a couple of these here, but this was a bigger win than just if you look at how everything else kind of waterfalled throughout this week so far. The Steelers winning on the road, the Browns losing to the Raiders at home. The Bengals beating the Titans. This is ginormous. We'll get to all of that. Trust me. Michael Clark gives us $2.99. Says excellent finish. Prediction for the next 4 games. Michael, come on, man. We just got to get through this one. We'll talk about the upcoming slate here. Stick with us. I promise you. Kyle Smith gives us $5. He says, Fietner must have heard me through the TV when they started going 5 wide. Love how this team battles back 7-0. I don't know what Randy Land was thinking at all. But we'll just put it that way. We saw a lot of Randy Land today. Young Boy 24, $5 in the tip jar. Appreciate that. He said, who would have thought 16-0 was still possible after 2 months? I know who is thinking about it. Are my hair clippers that Bryan Anthony Davis said he would cut a mohawk in his head if the Steelers finished 16-0. Mike Hilton needs to get healthy so that he can get his 10 sacks on the season so you can grow a porn stash. That's even better. You're sweating, Bryan. I know you are every week.
Hey. I'll sell the farm for 16-0, baby.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
I'll sell the farm for 19-0.
There you go. Much better. Corey Stainbrook, he puts $5 in the tip jar. Says Spilly. That's right. They call him Spilly. I had someone mention me on Twitter or something when I wrote the article about when Robert Spillane had the big stand. Last week on Derrick Henry, and everyone's like, Spilly, what a horrible nickname. That's what his teammates call him. That's what they said on Twitter. Like, trust me, I would not give a guy the nickname Spilly, but that's what they call him. Holy cow. Snowman gives us $5. Wow. When the Steelers win, the money flows. Man, I just appreciate that.
We might not get to say anything today. We might just have to read super chats the whole time.
This is the podcast of Jeff reading other people's thoughts. Here we go. Snowman gives us $5. Saying my heart transplant is scheduled for Wednesday. LOL. It's great to be 7-0. The Jerry Cherry Band, he said on Twitter, he goes, oh my gosh, he said, I lost 10 years of my life. At the end of that game, I said, I lost 20 just trying to finish the game recap because you're literally in a fever to try to figure out, normally you have a game where it's kind of how it's going to end. You can kind of, the Steelers win, makes them 7-0. No one knew how this game was going to end. Yeah, that was bad. Ryan O'Toole gives us $5. Says, "Whew, chest pain. Spillane is a rock star, baby." Spillane made some great plays. I thought that the Steelers made some good adjustments. And here we keep going. Brighton Barnes, $1.99. He said, "It's Night Train Spillane." I like that one a lot better. Okay, I really do like that one a lot better. But again, I didn't make up Spilly. They did. Blame them. That's like all those horrible hockey nicknames that hockey teams give. Go ahead, Brian.
What about my nickname for him? The Legacy.
The Legacy? Well, one play. That's all he needed. It's not
good. No, but he's talking about his
grandfather.
Oh.
He's the Legacy.
No, get out of here. Shield 91. He gives us $5 in the tip jar. He says, "Just to throw more money at you, go Steelers." Thank you, Shield. We appreciate it. He's a longtime viewer. Tom Muir gives us $3 in the tip jar. Says 7-0. Holy shnikes. Here we go, Steelers. Here we go. That is right. Holy shnikes is right. If we were to reincarnate that movie, Tommy Boy would be great. Eddie B gives us two, what do we call this? Canuck Bucks? Is that what we decided on? Yeah. Canuck Bucks. Two Canuck Bucks, which is
you got Dingo dollars coming up soon.
That's like the equivalent of a quarter in the United States. Anyways, thank you, Eddie B. We appreciate Ben plays are greater than scripted Randy plays. That is something to definitely talk about. Here we go. Maxwell Holcomb gives us $5. This is incredible. I've never had anything like this in my life. We've been doing this how long on YouTube, guys? Have we ever had a sequence where it's just like one of the next? I've never had this. Maxwell Holcomb gives us $5. It's just because we won. Screw the Ratbirds. Screw the Ratbirds, indeed. Screw them. They were booing Cam Hayward's injury. Screw them. That's what I say. Wes Hickok, friend of the show, says he gives us $5. I nearly had a heart attack. Was wrong on every prediction except us winning, and I don't even care. Good Steelers 7-0, baby. That's right, Wes. Let's keep celebrating. Brandon Drummond gives us $4.99. He said, "Here's $5 for a Ravens loss." I'll always take that. Absolutely. Brandon Keene gives us $4.99. "Oh, mama, I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the law. They didn't play it because it was at M&T Bank, but you could feel it." Holy cow, this is insane. You all are great. We appreciate all of our listeners, whether you're listening in audio platform or whether you're joining us live on YouTube. We're 7 minutes in. This feels like a hangover. My gosh, Dave, we haven't even gotten any Steelers talk. Feels like we're on the Steelers hangover with Brian and Tony talking about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You got to pay so much attention to the live chat. It's like it's Monday afternoon.
Changed that. You didn't listen last 2 weeks.
Yes, I did. All right, man. Here we go. Case and Wright. $5. Yeah, what he said. All right, very good. Thank you all for the contributions. Did I miss any in there, Dave? Did you see any that I missed? I didn't.
No, but I'm still trying to finish reading this article.
Okay, go ahead. Do that. Holy cow. All right, here we go, everyone. The Steelers win, and as we always do, we're going to break this thing down. We're going to talk about everything that was good and everything that was bad, because the way that you finish is always what people remember. And so you think about last week, people were really ticked off and disappointed with the fact that the Steelers started out 24-3, and then all of a sudden they let things slip away and barely cling to a 27-24 win. It's almost flipped this time. The Steelers were trailing at halftime, and then they come back, and a lot of crazy plays happened in between now and then. Nonetheless, Felicia gives us $10. Says after today, they best put some respect on our name. Trust me, the people in Baltimore are already crying foul for a lot of reasons, and we'll get to all that. Dave Shipley gives us $5. Says defense, and Ben is Ben. That is right, Ben Roethlisberger. Let's start off with some stats here. If you throw us some super chats in the meantime, like Informed 80 just gave us $5. He called it during bold predictions. Spilly for a pick six. Good for you, man. If you called a Spilly pick six, that's a heck of a prediction.
No, wait a second. I got mine.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, hold on. We missed our Dingo dollars. I just got a message that we missed Mark's. There we go. I got it.
Oh, you got it? Bring it up.
Yep.
A Dingo dollars. 5 Dingo. That's I think that's like 2 nickels rubbed together. He said, "Where's Austin? That bloke couldn't pick up a wet rag out of a swimming pool." Ravens lost. Thank you very much, Mark, for that. Appreciate it. We have 415 people right now in the live chat.
Let's talk Steelers.
If we could talk some Steelers, get that off the screen there, Dave, for me, please, and we'll be good to go. Let's break it down with looking at the box score, and let's start with offense. Let's start with Ben Roethlisberger. He finishes 21 of 32, 182 yards, a 5.7 average, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He only sacked 2 times with a rating of 101.3. Guys, let's talk about Big Ben. He ends up, I think he was, my gosh, they don't win this game with anyone else. I gotta believe that. Dave, we'll start with you. If you're grading Roethlisberger, what do you give him?
That's tough because once again it's a tale of two halves. But honestly, I'm going A+. This was him. This was him taking this team and saying, you know what? I don't even need the threat of a running back next to me at all here at the end. We're going to get back in this game. Once Alex Highsmith set them up to where they could get right back in it, he's like, let's go. And I don't care about everything else. He did what he needed to do to keep getting them the lead. Would have really liked if they could have got a first down there at the end and, saved a couple years off my life. Yeah, but agree with know what? It was what it was. I like the aggressiveness to throw the ball 1 second down there, and they almost had that that was Deontay Johnson.
I thought DJ had it. I thought he had it.
Yeah, he was right there. Yeah. So as my brother texted me, said would have really liked to have seen, if not a jet sweep on that third down, at least the threat of one. Yep.
He didn't need it that much this game.
I'm getting off topic. I focus on Ben. I'm just so happy he went into Baltimore and won the game. First time he's faced off against Lamar Jackson. I really don't care about the numbers. I just love my quarterback, so I'm saying A+.
Especially when Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, put up a sign, a billboard that said, "Welcome back, Ben." I was like, "Oh, you all don't know."
Had him laying on the ground injured.
Don't poke the bear. Don't poke the bear. Okay, it started in your town. The Ben Roethlisberger era started in your town. He brought it back. All right, Dave, Bryan, what are you grading Roethlisberger today?
I'm going to go ahead and give him a B. I love what Dave said about him coming back, putting it all on his shoulders. But you know what? Look, I can't really give him an A on this. I thought it was a fantastic performance at the end. The first half was awful, and they really got behind. They were down 17-7, and Ben wasn't getting anything going. I'm going to give him a B, and I have no problem because he has a chance to, he still won the game, and that's awesome. But if you're looking at overall performances, it was not a first-class A performance, but you knew at the end that he was going to get it done.
Okay, a couple things here, and this is my grade that's going to also talk about Bryan's. I give him an A because my theory, I didn't think that the first half issues and the first half woes were solely on Ben Roethlisberger. There was some awful play calling, and let's not also forget that's the best defense they've played yet this year. The best defense they've played by far in terms of top down. You can talk about Philly's pass rush, which they were good to. They're good to get after the quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't played a defense like this yet, and it took them some time. It took them some time to figure out what was going to work, how they were going to attack the Ravens, and you can complain about the preparation aspect of things, but I wouldn't put that on Ben. I think he has an A. The second half alone, where it was all him. I mean, like you said, empty sets a lot, where it's just Ben and 5 wides. And he slowly picked him apart. I'll give him an 8. Bryan, I understand what you're saying. I just disagree. Anthony gives us 5. I think that's a pound. Man, now we got to think of something for pounds. He said, when we were 4-0, I thought if we win 2 of the next 4 games, we would have a really good season. He said 400 plus people watching live on YouTube should be 400 likes. Yes, if you could like the show, we appreciate it. If you like the content, you can subscribe. We definitely do appreciate the contribution, Anthony. Thank you very much. So Ben Roethlisberger, we'll move on from him. He gets an A. From me, an A+ from Dave Schofield, and a B from the Ratbird loving Bryan Anthony Davis. Now let's go to rushing, the running game. Not many rushes at all, only 16. James Conner, 15 carries for 47 yards, 3.1 average, 1 touchdown with a long of 18. Anthony McFarland gets 1 carry for 1 yard.
Oh,
he
that could
tripped
have been
over nothing
yards.
But it could have been a big one. It could have been a big gain. He tripped over his own 2 feet, or maybe it was a line on the field. I don't know. And that's the only people that had runs in this game. Benny Snell, 0 carries. Jalen Samuel, he got a target, but no carries. Guys, what's your thought on Conner? Number one, Conner, but also the Steelers not really running the football much with other backs. Benny Snell, we talked about it on the preview on Thursday. We thought he might have a game because he played well against them in Week 17 last year. Not the case. Bryan, what grade do you give in the running game?
The running game only gets a C for me.
Okay.
It wasn't as effective as it needed to be. Conner did run hard, but it didn't get it done.
Okay. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I'll maybe say a C+. I mean, just because they average wise, I mean, they averaged 4.4 yards a carry. There was times where they were ripping off runs, but if honestly, I would have bumped that up to a B if they would have got the first down on their last possession. But they were going up against a good defense. Some things were kind of interesting there. I was surprised there was not one wide receiver with a carry. That kind of disappointed me that they didn't try to run any of those sweeps. But that's not what won the Steelers the game. What won the Steelers the game was them saying, "Hey, we're just going to come up here and try to pick you apart.
We're gonna chuck it. We're gonna chuck it to win." The Steelers never committed to the run, and a large reason was the fact that the game just didn't go that way. There were times where games just you have to. I think they wanted to run the football, and it just didn't work out that way, and they didn't. So I'm going to give them a B. I don't think. James Conner, I thought he ran hard. Every single yard he got was really earned. I mean, he was getting hit hard. I'll give him a B. First and last gives us $5. And the tip jar, he says, did Spillane get credit for the fumble recovery?
Yes.
Dave, did you check there?
Yes.
He said he did. I'm pretty sure that was credited. Yes.
Because they say that they had 2 fumbles lost, so that had to be one.
There you go.
Yep.
And Anthony Johnson gives us $10 in the tip jar. We appreciate that. He said it had about 40 heart attacks that game. Thoughts on Highsmith and Bugs stepping up? Great show as always, guys. Anthony, we are going to talk about the defense in a second. We're going to roll through the offense first, but some young players stepping up in a big way for sure. Let's continue on with the passing game and receiving core. The Pittsburgh receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster leads the way. 7 catches on 8 targets, 67 yards, 9.6 average. Couple times I thought he was going to get in the end zone, just never was able to get it. Eric Ebron, 4 catches for 48 yards. Felt like this kind of his coming out party for the Steelers. 12 average, 1 touchdown on 5 targets. Chase Claypool, 5 catches, 42 yards, 8.4 average, 1 touchdown. He did have 9 targets. He did have that costly fumble early in the game. He did rebound from that. Connor with 3 catches for 13 yards on 3 targets. And then Ray McLeod had a catch on 6 yards with 1 target. Deontay Johnson with only 1 catch. Guys, this is the offense now, is it not? This is the offense. Deontay Johnson scores 2 touchdowns last week, is the second leading receiver for the team in week 7 against Tennessee. This week, catch and 6 yards. But let's grade the receiving core as a whole. Dave, we'll start with you.
That's a tough one. I'm going to go B. I almost gave him a plus, but I'm going to go B. There was times where they were doing everything that they could. It's funny because they called some defensive pass interferences against the Ravens that I felt like the one against Ray was a little bit sketchy, but the one against DJ was obvious and they didn't get it called. And, maybe you could have sold it more or whatnot. But they, for the most part, they came through. I don't know how else to say it. Help me out, Bryan.
Get a grade. Give it a grade.
I said B.
Okay, B. Okay. All right. Doing some stuff. Bryan, what do you think?
Mr. Schofield, I see your B, and I raise you an A.
Okay.
So the reason I'm going with that, I thought they did everything they needed to do. I thought Claypool, that fumble, but he made up for the fumble, but they were getting open when Ben was able to find them. I really thought the game that the receivers played is pretty solid. As you said about Ebron, he helped move the chains. Ray not only moved the chains, but then got that big penalty as well. So those penalties, drawing those penalties against very tough. I mean, that's secondary. You got 3 studs in that secondary, whether it's Humphrey, whether it's Peters, or even Jimmy Smith. And I'm looking at these guys, and they all have been to Pro Bowls. They're all very tough players, but they're all jerks too. And so, I mean, I was asking. So it makes it so much better. So I've got to give these guys an A. I was asking Kevin Smith the other day. Cliff Harris is a punk on our pregame show, who he thinks the next great Raven rival on defense is going to be. And he brought up a few guys. He brought up Patrick Queen, but I'm thinking between Humphrey and Peters, those guys are going to be as hated as guys like Suggs and Lewis.
Yeah. I mean, you could maybe throw Matthew Judon if he stays there after he threw Deontay Johnson into the sideline and then didn't really take a swing at a ref, but got ejected because his arm almost cold cocked on a side official. So there's going to be a lot.
That play was started by Peters.
You're right.
Headbutting him twice. He headbutted him twice on that.
Yeah, I know. Well, Peters has a rap sheet, and I'm not talking about Ian Rappaport's Twitter handle. Okay, let's. I'm going to give the receivers a B+ because other than the drop by Ebron early, he had a drop that was pretty easy catch. Okay, he hits like Jalen Samuels had a drop. If it hits your hands, catch the football. Okay, in the fumble by Claypool, I thought they had a good game. When you look at Roethlisberger's stat line. And he throws 21 of 32. That's a high completion percentage. The receivers are doing their job. Rocket Dude H gives us $4.99. The tip jar says the offense was a bit poor. The only time it was good was when Ben was in the hurry up with no back, which is a 5-wide set. Yeah, there's no hiding that. The Steelers couldn't move the ball otherwise, but you have to find ways to make it work. Period. And so that's something good there. Here, Grant Yule gave us 5. I guess that's €1. Who would have thought Buggs would have had the biggest play of the day? Great second half from him. All the Steelers love from Scotland. Mike Tomlin had some choice words for Isaiah Buggs after the game in his post-game press conference. They asked him about Buggs, and he said, well, he wasn't making the plays in the first half. I have a feeling that there was some I think Cliff Harris is still a punk, called it a motivational speech at halftime. We'll see. Brandon.
Wonder if he still has the bite marks from that one.
Brandon Keene, $4.99. He says Juju leads the league in heart. Yet another game we saw him impose as well. Throw the stats out. This kid just wants to win. Hey, he got tough yards. He got tough yards in this game. No doubt about that. And then lastly here, Obliterex gives us $4.99. I didn't see the question. If we get that, Dave, throw that up on the screen.
I'll look for it.
All right.
Just type it again, Obliterex. I'll find you.
Yeah,
you don't have to add any. You don't have to donate anything.
No. Yeah, you already did that. We appreciate all the love that y'all been giving so far. Let's talk about the offensive line here. That's how we typically wrap up the offensive side of the football. The offensive line only allowed 2 sacks on Ben Roethlisberger on a day where the Ravens get after the quarterback. Like I said, this was people. I don't know what people thought. Ravens defense is good. Okay, they're really good. They give up 2 sacks and only 5 quarterback hits. You compare that to the other side of the ball with the Steelers, who ended up with 4 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. Guys, grading the offensive line, what are your thoughts? Dave, we'll start with you.
I'm going to give them a B because I did not like the pass blocking. Sorry, I said it wrong. I did like the pass blocking. I did not like the run blocking. I said it the wrong way. That's overall they averaged out pretty well. And like I said, they were going up against a very good defense. I'd even stretch that to a B+ because the most important thing was to keep Ben clean. One of those sacks was on Ben. He held it for too long.
Yes,
and that was what they needed to do, and not have Ben. There was one ball batted down the whole game.
I think they had one. Calais Campbell had one. Yeah.
So when it came to the pass blocking, I thought they did a very nice job.
Brian Anthony Davis, what's your grade?
Dave's right on here, but I'm going to go ahead and go with a B+. And the reason I'm going to do that is they kept Ben upright most of the game. I know there were 2 sacks, but as you all alluded, this is a fantastic Ravens front 7 as well. You guys have Calais Campbell and the guy I can't pronounce, the guy they just got in the trade,
Ngakoue.
And did we hear his name today?
Yeah, he had a half a sack, or he was in on a sack, or in on a big play. But I got to tell you, these guys are really good. And as I'm looking at most of my grades, maybe I should give everything B+ and A's just for the fact that they beat this team in Baltimore, and this is never going to be a pretty game.
I'm going to give him an A because when you have to go empty set 5 wide, you have to be able to protect the quarterback. You don't have a safety valve and James Conner back there to step up on a blitz pickup, and they did just that. And let's also think about this. Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
Okay, that's okay. And let me just tell you about this, is the fact that the Baltimore Ravens defense, in terms of points given up, other than their loss to Kansas City where they gave up 24, the Philadelphia game, they gave up 28. There was those late points. They haven't given up hardly. I don't know. They haven't given up over 28 since then. This is a good defense, people. This is a good defense. I understand that we as Steeler fans expect the offense to just walk out on the field and be like, look at all our wins. We're going to impose our will. It doesn't happen against really good teams. The Baltimore Ravens are a good team. I know that they haven't played. You want to talk about who have they played? They're a good football team. Okay, they are a really good football team. Okay, so let's get to this. Obliterex has given us a donation. He said, tell me about our linebackers and don't mansplain
it to me.
There you go. Well, we're going to talk about the linebackers in a second when we go over to the second half of our show, talking about the defense. Rocket Dude H gives us $4.99. Again, not sure if I missed that question or comment. Apologize, but thank you for the donation. We really appreciate it. There's, oh my gosh, almost 600 people here in the live chat, live on YouTube. If you're listening in audio platform and you're wondering about this awesome community that we have here on YouTube, you can find us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search BTSC Steelers Radio, subscribe. So you don't miss out on the thing. All of our PM shows are live streamed here on YouTube, and then we take the audio and put them over on our audio platform. And vice versa, if you're listening here on YouTube and you're like, well, they have an audio platform. Yes, anywhere that you find your podcast, we have so much more content other than here on YouTube. My Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning show, Dave's Stat Geek on Thursday, Michael Beck's Live Mike. We have the Steelers Retro Show, so much stuff. Anywhere where you get your podcast, search Steelers or just search Behind the Steel Curtain. You'll find us. Subscribe, follow, whatever you got to do. You won't regret it. All right, last thing, we take a break for the audio people. YouTube, we're not going anywhere. Guys, what about the game plan offensively? Okay. It was awful. I mean, it was awful. And you didn't take a seasoned expert to know that. But what are your thoughts on this start of the game and Randy Fiedner? We don't have to give grades, just your thoughts. Brian, we'll start with you.
No, I wasn't thrilled with the run. Okay, let's try to pass. It just, like, early on, I didn't love it. But as the game wore on, I was pleased with what they were doing. It seemed like Dave said earlier, Ben got a chance to take over. And I say this all the time, and it's my new catchphrase as far as what Ben does and what this team does. All right, boys, let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner. And that's exactly what they did. So as far as that game plan, what it turned into the second half, was good enough, and it worked. Dave,
what are your thoughts on the offense?
They were kind of lulled to sleep until they finally took the field. If you think about it, the first half, right. It's a 7-7 game. It's a drive that, they should have been out there with a 7-0 lead the first time because, Cam Hayward hits Minkah Fitzpatrick while he's hitting Lamar Jackson, and they want to call that a bad hit. It was kind of, let's not go on to that one, but, it just felt like a completely different game from the prior week because they started with the ball. They held it the whole time. It was the exact opposite this time. And they kind of started off offensively, much like the Titans did last week after getting lulled into it. So I'm just really happy that they came out in the second half and bounced back because the first half, it just seemed like nothing was going right. Even when they started to move the ball, that's when you had the Claypool turnover. But I tell you, taking care of the ball, even though you did have the one turnover, taking care of the ball was what really won them this game.
Quick question here, guys. And I'm trying to think of the scores in my head. How many times in this season have the Steelers had to come from behind?
Against Houston?
But Houston won like a field goal.
They were down at halftime.
Yeah, they were down at halftime because they gave up the touchdown at the half. Is there any other time that they had to play from behind that you all can think of?
Not in the second half.
No, I for sure. I'm not sure about the Broncos game. I don't think so. So I think
Philly. No, I don't.
No, they were
up big and then tried to hold on.
Well, here's my point. You are driving my point home. This is a first for the Steelers offense. They were down, and they had to bring the team back. They had to come from behind. They had to do it by throwing the football. That's how you have to do it in the National Football League. You're not going to be able to, unless you're the Houston Texans, as I'll agree when they were having to come back and just like, we're going to be determined to run the football. They just did that all the way to a loss. The Steelers had to throw it to get back in, and they were successful. Let's get to a couple super chats here before we take a quick break. Marcus Nash gives us $5.99. He said, I wish we'd try play action on first down instead of sending Connor to the Wolves. Play action also impacts the run game. The Steelers just don't like to run a lot of play action passes. I don't know what it is. They just don't. And we talked about it on the preview that Ben doesn't like to turn his back to the defense. I don't know. They just don't like to do it for whatever reason. It makes sense, but they don't do it. Sean Manahan gives us $5. Style points don't matter. We rocked it. 7-0, baby. That's right. Style points don't matter. Keith Barnaby, $4.99 in tip jar. He says it all started with Cam and Minka got called for the late hit on the receiver. It certainly did change the momentum and the complexity of that first half. And the Steelers didn't get the football on offense for the first time, I think, till 8:44 left in the first quarter. It's a long time to wait. So with that said, we're going to take a quick break on the audio side. Go to part 2. We'll talk about the defense and all that stuff, game balls, you name it. And then if you're on YouTube, don't go anywhere because we're not going anywhere. We'll be right back. We'll see you in a bit. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Jeff Hartman here, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with you for part 2 of our Steelers postgame podcast. That's right, the Steelers are 7-0. They come from behind to beat the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, M&T Bank Stadium, 28-24. They remain perfect. And there is a lot to talk about. For those on the audio platform, I hope that you checked out part 1 where we talked about all of the offensive players, the offensive game plan. We graded everything out, and now we're going to go to the other side of the football and talk about defense. As always, joining me, Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer, and Dave Schofield, the other co-editor for the website. Gentlemen, let's talk about defense for a second. Let's talk about the front and defensive front. Okay, we're just going to talk about, players and notable players. Robert Spillane, what a day. 11 total tackles, 10 solo, 1 tackle for loss, 2 pass defenses, an interception, return for a touchdown, and a fumble recovery. Some might argue he could have had a second fumble recovery when it was, I believe, Mark Andrews that was stripped from behind by Cam Sutton. It looked like Spillane might be able to pick up the ball and just slide out of bounds, but for some reason he tried to toss it back in. And nonetheless, Stephon Tuitt, 9 tackles, 8 solo, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. He was a monster. Let's see here. Cameron Hayward, 5 tackles, 4 solo. TJ Watt, 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits. Man, TJ Watt was all over the field. Isaiah Buggs, 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 quarterback hit, and he had some big stops on that last final drive. Bud Dupree, 4 tackles, 4 solo, 1 strip sack, which caused a fumble. That was a red zone turnover for the Steelers early in that game. Guys, I could go on, but let's grade the Steelers front, okay? Let's not go into pass rushing yet. Let's just talk about the Steelers rush defense. Let me bring up those numbers for the Ravens. They rushed for 265 yards. That's going to hurt the average, Dave. J.K. Dobbins, 15 carries for 113, 7.5 average. Gus Edwards, 16 carries for 87. Lamar Jackson, 16 for 65. You look at these numbers and you say, how in the heck did they win this football game? But they did. Let's grade it, Dave. What do we give the rush defense?
The rush. Oh, that's. I'm going to give it a C. I was going to give it even worse, but at the time of the game where they needed to stop the run through the third quarter in order to get back in it, they did. Otherwise, they got gashed. So that's what brought them back a little bit. It was very inconsistent.
Okay, so you give it a C?
Yeah.
Okay, Bryan Anthony Davis, what's your grade?
Can I go ahead and give them a B-? And I know that's going to sound crazy with giving up 260 yards, but they stopped them when they had to stop them rushing. It's almost an impossible task to completely stop these guys. You have.
Oh, there he is.
No, there he is.
There he is. You froze a little bit.
Okay. Even with Mark Ingram out, they are so dangerous everywhere. Edwards had a fantastic game. Dobbins was that good. And you could never, until he's completely down on the ground, you don't know what you're going to do, what you're going to have to face with Lamar Jackson, because he is so dangerous when he takes off. So the fact that
Oh, there he goes again.
I'm cool with that.
He's cool with something. We know that.
Yeah. Check your internet there, Bryan. You're bumping out a little bit. All right. For me, I'm going to give them, the rush defense, a D-. Do you know why? They gave up 260 plus yards. That's why. Yeah, you can talk about them standing tall at certain moments of the game. They gave up 265 yards rushing. They almost gave up 200-yard rushers on the game. If you think about the fact that Dobbins had 113, Edwards had 87. And I guarantee you that if the Steelers hadn't stormed back and taken the lead, he would have had over 100 because they were getting gashed left and right. So the Steelers rush defense, I know Bryan is right. It is a difficult task to stop that RPO style college type offense. But you know what? You would think that they would have a little bit better clue. It wasn't pretty. They should be thanking their lucky stars that they were able to leave. Biggest impact on this game, though, a D- with a little, if I'm going to put a little asterisk there, Tyson Alualu being hurt on seemingly the first series of the game with a knee.
That
when you
huge.
lose,
that
yes,
really
when
was.
People say it's just Tyson, he is such a big part of that defensive front, and losing him that early. Isaiah Buggs was inactive last week, folks. He didn't even get a helmet. So thankfully they gave him a helmet this week, and Mondo was healthy as well. This is going to be interesting. Now, Dave Shipley puts $5 in the tip jar, and he says trade for J.J. Watt with Hayward out. Now, we don't know.
We
don't know what the injury is for Hayward yet. Mike Tomlin said in his post-game press conference that he was a cramp early. So when he went down early and stopped the clock, it was a cramp. They came off. The guy got loose, and then he's not sure what happened after that. Let's get to Rocket Dude H first. He gives us $4.99. He said, I'm on the Spillane wagon. I don't think you're the only one, Rocket Dude. Trust me. I'm going to try to say this as nice as I can. Yeah. Let me just say that there's a part of me that thinks that Cam Hayward is a veteran and that Cam Hayward knew exactly what he was doing. We'll put it that way. Now, I could be wrong. And by the time you're listening to this podcast, you might say, oh my gosh, we found out that Cam Hayward has a sprained MCL or a PCL. He's going to be out for X number of weeks. I don't know. But Mike Tomlin did not even mention the knee or any injury in his post-game. He had to be asked about it. Now, Devin Bush, when he hurt his knee, if we're using some comparison here, right after the game, what did he say? He's facing a significant injury. All I'm saying is I wouldn't be shocked, and Ravens fans are going to hate this if they listen to this podcast or see it on YouTube. I wouldn't be shocked if Cam Hayward knew the situation, knew he wasn't going to get down the field in time, and said, I'm just going to sit this one out.
That's what I said to you when you posted during the game.
It sounds horrible to say that and to suggest that. But Dave, you played the game. Yeah. Your thoughts, if that was the case, we're not saying it is, but if that was the case, what are your thoughts?
He's the guy you don't want coming off the field. Like, honestly, when I played, there was supposed to be someone who was not key enough that if we ever really needed it would be injured. If you know what I mean. You kind of like, was that Emmanuel Sanders the one time walked back to the huddle and then all of a sudden
he
collapsed?
Just fell down.
So I don't know. And I don't think it was that. I don't think the Steelers needed a timeout there. I think it really was he was trying to battle through to the end with the cramps. That big completion down the field. If he tries to get down the field and they snap it, it's a 5-yard penalty. And
that killed probably another 5 seconds off the clock. No, I think it was 13. I think it was 13 seconds.
They stopped it right when they went to snap it, so they wouldn't have snapped it any sooner. So I'm glad they didn't add stuff back on the clock.
I hear you.
In my opinion,
Gene Steratore said on the call that it was supposed to be stopped at the moment of the injury. So when they're running down there, if they see Cam sitting on the ground, they're supposed to blow the whistle and stop the clock. Mm-hmm. I believe that was with 13 seconds left or something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't 13 because this was the big pass play to Snead to get them down into striking distance. So maybe there was 22 or something. They let that clock run and they didn't give them the time back. Yeah. I'm not sure the procedure stuff. Bryan, what are your thoughts? I feel bad calling Cam a faker, but if it helps your team, I mean, hey, Mike Vrabel gets applauded for having too many men on the field to stop the clock. At the end of a Titans game, they're like, what a genius. Isn't this the same thing?
It's absolutely the same thing.
Oh, gosh, here we go.
Performances against us.
Okay.
Your internet's going in and out there, Bryan.
Okay.
What did
Which
you
is
say?
funny because right now, looking at you two, Bryan looks normal and Jeff looks all pixely to me.
I've got fiber. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Go ahead there, Bryan.
Bryan's got his high fiber diet going on.
No, see, happened against us before.
Yeah.
It happened so many times before against us. I mean, against the Steelers. So if they had to do it to make it happen happen. I have no problem with it.
There you go.
I hope that's what it was because I want.
So do I.
To be okay.
So do I.
I want him to be okay. You know, wasn't it the Cowboys game the last time they played him that he got injured and then they lost him for the rest of the season? I'm pretty sure that was in the Cowboys game.
I think you're right.
So I would like for him to be okay next week. If he's not, who knows what they're going to do. It really depends on both him and Alu. It doesn't seem like there was anything that had them convinced that they weren't going to be available, but we'll see. I'm really hoping that they say, yeah, Cam was just more. It was a cramping issue, and then it got really bad, and he couldn't. Let that one breathe a little bit before Baltimore's jumping all over
I
it.
hope so. I guarantee they are. All right, Rocket Dude H gave us $4.99. He said he agreed with my D- for the rush defense. He said Jeff was right. It was pretty bad. It was more than pretty bad. It was really bad.
Like I said, the only thing that saved me was there was times when they needed the stop and they got it.
You're right.
Third quarter.
Absolutely. Ocams OX says, how much did they miss Mike Hilton? Well, Mike Tomlin talked about in his post-game press conference. He said that in the rush defense, one of the reasons why they threw out, they were playing a lot of Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt, and Bud Dupree all in the field together. He said, we use Mike Hilton as like a small linebacker and that his skill set, he can do that. He can do all those things. They missed him a lot. But you know what? I said this when the inactive list came out and I saw that Hilton was on it. Yes, don't push him back right now. Get that shoulder right and then let him come back when he's fully healthy. They're going to need him for the stretch run because at this time, for the first time in a long time, we can actually say that they're going to need him for the playoffs. And unless a monumental collapse, a huge injury happens, this Steelers team is, well, they're 7-0. Just a Fan gives us $4.99. He says Steelers are clutch. It's a long season to go, but have to give the kudos to our team in defeating a rival regardless. A rival on the road in a place that a lot of people would consider the Steelers' house of horrors. If you're a Pirates fan, Miller Park is a place that the Pirates can never win, no matter how good they are. That's like their house of horrors. M&T Bank Stadium for the Steelers is very similar. All right, let's get to the pass rush here, the front seven pass rush. I mentioned that Lamar Jackson, he was sacked 4 times for 16 yards. He threw 2 interceptions, but that's more on the secondary. We'll get to them in a second. Again, they finished with 4 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. The sacks were Stephon Tuitt 2, TJ Watt 1, Bud Dupree 1, and that was a strip sack, which was a pretty nifty play. Guys, if you're grading the pass rush, Bryan, we'll start with you.
They were pretty phenomenal.
All right, yeah. Go ahead, Dave. What are you giving them?
I'm going to give them an A- just because there was a couple times where Jackson was able to get out from it. I don't know if it was strictly on them. That's why I don't want to ding them too much. But other than that, they were right there disrupting things the whole game.
He's a tough player to bring down. He is a super elusive player. I'll give them an A but 4 sacks. I mean, it's not your 5, Dave. I know you said you wanted 5 to get back on that average slowly and surely, but hey, 4 sacks. Let me look at my over-under numbers if I can find him here. Oh, to hell with it. Little major league reference. It's sponsored by, I can't find it. The hell with it. All right. Let's go to this. Let's go to the secondary. Love that movie. All right. Lamar Jackson finished the day 13 of 28 for 208 yards, a 7.4 average, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks with a rating of 65.8. Cue the sad trombone music. Womp womp. They had passes receiving. Willie Snead, 5 catches for 106, and the long was 34. I believe that was that play we were talking about, with 7 targets. Willie Snead burns the Steelers more than any other Baltimore receiver. Devin what? How do you say that, Bryan? Duvernay? Sure. 1 catch, 39 yards, 3 targets. Mark Andrews, 3 for 32. Miles Boykin, 2 for 20 and a touchdown. Marquise Brown, 1 for 3 with 1 touchdown. Guys, if we're grading the secondary, what are you grading them? Lamar threw for 208. Dave, we'll start with you.
You keep starting with me. Honestly, I'm going to give them a B-, just because there was too many times. I mean, I'm going to drop that to a C+. Too many times with miscommunications where guys were wide open, kind of how the Steelers got a couple of times there, especially in some key areas. The guys up front were getting it done. They might not have had as much help back there as they wanted because they were trying to keep Lamar Jackson in check. But they gave up some of the big plays when they really needed to not give up big plays.
So what was your final grade?
I went with C+.
Okay. All right. Bryan, what are your thoughts?
I'll go with a C. They did buckle down at the very end, but I did not think they were phenomenal whatsoever. They let Willie Snead get free a few times. They let some of those big plays, let them go down the field. I didn't like it.
Can I say one thing, though, before
Sure.
Jeff jumps in? Once again, and this is a team that's huge with using their tight ends. I talked about it in my Crunching the Numbers article this morning. And that was, Sunday morning, in case you're listening to this later. Tight ends, 3 receptions, 32 yards, no touchdowns. That's not what you generally get out of this Baltimore Ravens.
No.
So when they were trying to shut down the tight ends, they did that part, but they did let the wide receivers get to them a little bit.
Very much like your Steelers Vertex article after the Philly game, where it was take Zach Ertz out of it, but then what happens? You got burned by someone else.
Yeah.
They kind of did seem like maybe they did the same thing. Maybe that's something you and Jeffrey Benedict can take a look at for this week's article. It might be a good look. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to give them a B, because let's not forget that even in pass coverage, linebackers count, and they had 2 interceptions.
That's
Spillane,
true.
they scored. He put points on the board, and Highsmith comes up with a huge interception. Got to give them credit too, because even though it's not a secondary player, meaning cornerback or safety, they're in coverage, they're playing the pass, and those were 2 gargantuan plays for the Steelers defense. Rocket Dude H gives us $4.99. He says, let's give Highsmith, Spillane, and Buggs some credit. The standard is the standard. They plays. Absolutely. All those players, Highsmith, Spillane, and Buggs, were above the line when they were up on. Go ahead.
Buggs only in the second half. He was
Buggs, yeah,
not good in the first half.
Yeah.
But he made up for it when it counted.
Kyle Smith gives us $5. He said, glad they finally covered Scrub the 4th when it mattered most. He only gets his catches when he gets uncovered. Now, let me say, well, if he's open, he's open. Like, yeah, I'm not going to cut on the guy. But Wang Harbaugh is the ultimate Wang. We talk about that all the time on this show. And Wang Harbs, what was he doing at the end of the game? Anyone see? And so he's pointing at the refs. Oh, you hit him in the head. He didn't hit him in the head, Wang Harbs. Harbaugh needs to go fly a kite. We'll leave it nice. I watched that replay multiple times. Justin Lane, who I thought played a good game, by the way, because he was called on. That was his highest snap total in his career. He went low on Willie Snead. Minka Fitzpatrick's going for the interception, going for the ball. They collide in midair. Snead gets flipped upside down. If Justin Lane doesn't take his legs out, Minka picks off the pass. Watch the replay. You'll see it. The Wang Harbaugh, go fly a kite. Get out of here with that.
Yep.
Snowman gives us $5. How about the shouting match between TJ Watt and Keith Butler? We'll talk about that in a second. Hey, I don't mind that. Players see something on the field that coaches don't see. Let's see here. Leo C, $4.99. He says, life is good. Steeler Nation, stand up. No more comments on this team's ability to win games. Is anyone cutting on the team that's undefeated on their ability to win games? I haven't seen that.
Just wait till this week. You're going to talk about, well, the Ravens outgained the Steelers 2-1 in yards and everything. But you know what? The Steelers made plays. They made plays. What was the difference in this game? They won by 4 points. What was the difference in the game? What was my bold prediction? A team would score either a special teams or defensive touchdown, and that team would win the game because of it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And when you're right, you're right. And he's right. Oh yeah. All right. So let's talk about the defensive coaching here for a little bit, because as I look at the box score, let's not forget, 7-7 after the first quarter. Baltimore scores 10 unanswered points to take a 17-7 lead into halftime. Pittsburgh rebounds to 14 unmatched points in the third quarter, and they both score 7 in the fourth. Bryan, we'll start with you here. Thoughts on the defensive game plan and the approach? And yeah, there were some injuries, and that does play a factor. But what's your thought on that? Doesn't have to be a grade, just your thought, like we did with the offense.
They held 7 points in the second half. This is such a tough team to go ahead and game plan against. You know what they're going to try to do, but it's not easy to stop, because those guys with their style of play, you're going to have to hope that you could muscle some plays, and the Steelers were able to muscle some plays. So I think they followed the game plan as much as they could. They almost got burnt a few times with some of those passes, but they did I think they worked everything up, and it came out to plan. The plan sort of came together for the defense, because they knew that this team was going to put points on them, but probably thought they were going to put a little bit more on them. So I thought the game plan
Bryan, what's your thoughts real quick? If we there you are. What's your thoughts on the little back and forth dispute between one Mr. Watt and one Mr. Butler?
Exactly what you said. They see different things out there, and he was probably getting on him, and Watt was defending his team. So that's the ultimate players standing up to the man, and that's exactly what he had to do. He was saying, "Look, there's a reason this is." He was doing that, then he's a superstar in my book, and he's the captain of that defense.
Good point. Dave Schofield, talk about the defense and then chime in on that Watt Butler little dispute on the sideline.
The defense came up with the big play. And yes, the Spillane touchdown was huge to start off the game. But to me, this game changed completely with Alex Highsmith's interception.
Yes.
Because some people are like, and I'm sure if you were to talk to a Ravens fan, which we're not going to right now, because although they said they're going to come into our live chat, the post game, and rub it in after their victory, I don't see any one of them in there.
Where are they?
I don't know. Where are they, Jeff? But they were probably screaming at their television sets saying, why are you throwing the ball in the third quarter? Because when they dropped back, Lamar was under pressure. They were dealing with fumbles. They were dealing with sacks. They were dealing with other things. But when they ran the ball, they just ran the ball. And they tried to sneak one there on the Steelers early by throwing the ball, and Highsmith made him pay. And I think that might not have been the best time to do what they tried to do there, but it doesn't matter if you don't make him pay for it. And the Steelers defense stepped up, made him pay, set up the offense. Offense hadn't scored a point all game up until that point, and they got it, at the 21-yard line.
Yeah.
That's what got the offense rolling. That's the play that changed the game. The defense came up with the play that they needed at the right time.
And when you think about it, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Then you said about the argument, you know what? The Steelers were giving up more yards than they ever had all season. I don't mind seeing guys fired up. They're not trying to throw punches and having guys hold them back. It just seems spirited. I like to see it.
I mean, as I coached for 13 years, I didn't coach football. Okay, I was head varsity coach in high school in lacrosse in the state of Maryland. And you know how many times I had players come off the field and I reamed them and they were yelling back at me, "Coach, you're wrong. That didn't happen." And then all of a sudden I'm like, "You're right. My bad." Because sometimes on the sideline, you don't see everything, and that's important. Ron Reed, he gives us $2. Let's give Tomlin some credit for his adjustments. Yeah, it wasn't pretty at times, but they did adjust, and they made plays when necessary offensively. It is what it is. It's impressive. Rocket Dude H gives us another $4.99. He said Highsmith could have had a pick six. He went for the receiver instead of the ball later in the game. I don't know if he had the angle on the ball. I don't know. That was really tough to tell from the TV angle. I'm just glad that if he would have caught that ball, Highsmith was there to make the play anyway. Yeah. Let's do some game balls. Okay. let's do some game balls. Offense and defense game balls. You can just go. Let's do offense first. Bryan, we'll start with you. Who's your offensive game ball for this day today?
Juju Smith-Schuster had a phenomenal game on offense, and I love what he did.
Very nice.
So go Juju.
Juju Smith. Dave, what about you? Offensive.
Since he took Juju, I will say one Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger for leading the team, doing what he had to do.
Very nice.
Running the no huddle, which meant get a little bit more plays from bench style. And I don't know. I almost wanted to say maybe some Matt Canada influence. I love their stacked wide receivers on both sides.
Do that more often.
I know that was great.
Do you remember back? I don't know if it was Arians or Wisenhunt, or it might have even been Malarkey. They used to love that bunch formation right off the edge. Hines Ward, Santonio Holmes, maybe even Nate Washington out there. They could run and throw out of that package. They have the receivers to do that now. When you look at Juju, Ebron, Claypool, bring it back. Bring it back. That's what I'm saying. My offensive game ball is going to go to Chase Claypool, because I felt that, a rookie who has not dealt with much adversity in his career so far, you fumble in the first quarter. And that was a good play by Peters, by the way.
Yes,
yeah, Brian's right. He's a jerk, but he's also a pretty good player. And he had made a great play, causes the fumble. That wasn't like Claypool being careless with the football. Comes back, sticks with it, and trusts him. Huge touchdown reception. I will give it to Canadian Bacon Mapletron, or whatever we're calling him now. Chris Morty said backyard ball. I think this is the game that finally got Ben over his injury. Ebron said after the game, this is the Ben I came to play with. Ebron is loving life right now. Let me just say that. Follow him on Twitter. You listen to him. He's running behind guys in their post-game press conferences like, we're undefeated. It's like he's a kid in a candy store that's never been in a candy store before. It always reminds me of, I think it was him who tweeted out like how great it is to be in Pittsburgh. And Marcus Wheaton, and I know that Mike Wallace, they both commented on the tweet and said, it's Pittsburgh, it's football heaven. Like Pittsburgh is football heaven. Like you got to enjoy your time there. And those two guys know what it's like elsewhere because they didn't finish their careers in Pittsburgh. Kason Wright gives us $5 and said, Hollywood Brown doing AB's dance was pathetic. See y'all on the Thanksgiving. See y'all on Thanksgiving, losers. I did not see Hollywood doing AB's dance. I'll have to go back and check that out and see if I can find a video of that. Did he? So what was it? The arm out thing?
It was that stupid shuffle that drives me crazy. And if you read Bold and Bizarre predictions, I said that he would have a touchdown and he would do some idiotic dance that would tick me off.
Well, there's also that fan who got busted with Justin Tucker's shoes, wasn't that? I don't know if Dave read the article or not.
Nope.
Oh my god, that's so funny. All right, defensive game balls. Let's go with Bryan. Who's your defensive game ball going to? Go ahead and say it so that you take it so everyone else can find someone else to.
I've got to go the legacy, Robert Spillane.
No, it's not the legacy. Quit forcing that on us. It's not Frank Webb, all right?
Hey, you accepted Jimmy C, so you have to accept the legacy.
Is that our first Frank Webb reference of the season? I think
no. Well, maybe. That's a whole theory in my house now. Yeah. If I just keep saying things enough, people will start to believe it. It's like it's the Frank Webb theory. All right, you give it to Spilly.
Yeah, 11 tackles. The man was all over the place. He is playing inspired football. He's saying, "Look, I belong here," and he really does.
Yeah. Dave Schofield, defensive game ball.
Next up for me is going to be one Stephon Tuitt with 9 tackles. And I don't know what your stuff has. I have him with what I'm looking at right now is 2 sacks on the day.
Yeah, I have for 2
so
as well.
Just making sure that I didn't know if they gave a half to bugs on that one or not. Yeah. So he made some nice plays. So I'll leave the other one for you there, Jeff.
The other one for me, let's see here. I could go a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
You said Tuitt, he said Spilly. I'm going to go defensive game ball. I'm going to give it to Bud Dupree, shockingly. Why?
Ooh.
The strip sack. It's a red zone turnover. Like, you don't understand how big those plays are. Like, that's unbelievable. And Dupree also he played a great game. TJ Watt could basically get a game ball every week. I decided to give it to someone else. Okay, so I'll go with Dupree. Ben Schleisinger gives us $2. Says Ebron has been an excellent offseason acquisition. I agree. I liked Ebron the moment he came out of North Carolina, and when they picked him up, I said this could be if he can stay healthy, really good pick. Really good pick. All right, now let's do our final thoughts here on this game. This has been a whirlwind. It's been a whirlwind podcast with all the money's been thrown around. Geez, I feel like I'm down in West Virginia making it rain. Bryan Anthony. Bryan Anthony Davis.
What kind of establishments were you going to, Jeff? In West Virginia?
It was just my bachelor party. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Let's go with Bryan. Final thoughts. Go ahead.
Why do I picture Jeff with a dollar bill on his nose?
You got to earn it.
All right. This is what I'm going to say. You are in rarefied air. This is beautiful. Only the second time in Steelers history that they're 7-0. It feels so fantastic. I'm so elated after this game, but this is a team, and we said this last week, they find ways to win. They will bend, but they're not going to break. So that's a really good thing. They beat a really good team today. They are now 2.5 games ahead of the Ravens and 2.5 games, thank you, Cincy, ahead of the Tennessee Titans in the conference. So that's pretty good. So really, the next couple games, they are winnable games. Not saying they're going to win. They've got to play their brand of ball, but this is a different Pittsburgh Steelers team than last year, than the year before, than the year before that. They are a special team that is playing with a mission, and we saw that today.
Very good. Dave, before you go, Kason Wright gives us $2. It's 650 plus in the chat, and a Steelers win. It's a great day. It is a great day. Absolutely a great day. Rocket Dude H, he gave $4.99. The tip jar says, I now have nightmares of Jeff. Yeah, I can see that. Ron Reed gives us $2, says, do the make it rain hands out. Here you go. You can make it rain like that. Like that. I got it. Oh my gosh. Ryan O'Toole, $2. How would you rate the Zebras? Oh my gosh. The Zebras. Let's talk about penalties real quick. I can bring this. I have it right here. Penalties.
Steelers won the penalty battle.
Yeah. And the Ravens were penalized 9 times. 9 times for 110 yards. 110 yards. Wow. The Steelers only had 3 penalties for 30. So, yeah, we talk about the Minka Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward late hit thing. I mean, ultimately, that was only, 3 penalties for 30 yards. They had 9 times. All right, guys, any comments on the Zebras?
I'll say that I think they helped get the Ravens going early, but at the same time, it seems like they don't know what pass interference is. They'll take plays that are and won't call it, and ones that aren't as bad as what they just didn't call and call it. I just wish someone knew what it was.
Yeah. Brian Anthony Davis, thoughts on the ref officials?
Yeah, it was rough today, but I also thought the Ravens were playing a very undisciplined game, and a lot of those calls I really didn't have a problem with either. So, there are some things that I didn't like, but for the most part, the Ravens earned those penalties.
Yeah. Snowman asked if there's any news on injuries. Really, Mike Tomlin didn't even talk about any injuries. Did you hear any, Dave?
He mentioned Alualu on his own.
They're getting evaluated.
Didn't even, and more talked about the loss of not having him more than what the injury was. And didn't even mention Cam Hayward until he was asked about it and said, oh, I don't know I know he was dealing with some cramps. So, yeah. So we're hoping.
I hate the fabricated Ben elbow injury. Like that was not ever.
People massage his elbow. I've seen that not just in this game, throughout the season, and everyone was flipping out over it all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so, sorry.
It's okay. All right, my final thoughts here. On a day.
Do I get mine?
Go. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My final thoughts are, let's see. Do I want to just sit here and talk about all the times I was right? No, I don't just want to do that.
You'll do that on your own. Don't worry.
Yes. Even though the Steelers did get a defensive touchdown, that was a difference in the game. And guess what? Now, neither one of these two teams, or their last 2 teams, is the team that they have to worry about in the AFC. Now it's just the one-loss Chiefs, which is what I said before the Titans game, is that this game with the Titans, it might not be as important as what people think at the end of the year. But the biggest thing that was important about this one was how we talked about all the pressure was on the Ravens. They had to win this game, not fall 2.5 behind the Steelers. And hey, if the Steelers came up a little bit short on this one, then they had to have the one at home on Thanksgiving. Now the Ravens have the most must-win game of the season by far on Thanksgiving in Pittsburgh on a short week, and it still might not even be enough to get them close enough because the Steelers just created their own path by themselves. Here we go.
Good points there, David. I'm going to say on a day where the Steelers, in terms of time of possession, were beaten 35-22 to 24-38, 35 minutes to 24 minutes in time of possession. Baltimore had 25 first downs to Pittsburgh's 19. Total yards, Baltimore 457 to 221. You would think that the Steelers got their doors blown off, but no. The Steelers created 4 turnovers. They were all around Lamar Jackson. They forced the game into his hands, and they ended up making enough plays to win. Good teams make enough plays to win. Super Bowl teams make enough plays to win. Folks, they're 7-0. If you're not on board yet, I'm not sure what team you're watching, because they showed a lot of heart, a lot of character today, in my opinion, coming from behind, winning this football game. 7-0 for the first time since 1978. If they win next week, it's a new team record. They've never started a season 8-0 because they lost their 8th game, I believe. Am I right, guys? In 1978?
Yes.
To the Houston Oilers.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. It's a good time to be a Steeler fan. Make sure that BehindTheSteelCurtain.com is your one-stop shop for all things Steelers. I know we've got some film room coming up this week. We've got commentary, breakdowns, winners, losers, report card, you name it. We will have it all for you right there at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. And as always, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure that you follow us. YouTube, BTSC Steelers Radio. Just do that in the search. You'll find us, subscribe, like the show if you're watching us live right now. And anywhere you get your podcasts, find us, search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain. The Steelers are 7-0, folks. Woo! It is time to rejoice. That is right. We'll be back next week after the Steelers. It'll be late. It's a 4:25 start in Week 9 against Dallas. In Dallas, we'll be back for another Steelers post game. In the meantime, 7-0's never felt so good. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.